Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Today I would like to discuss a very important topic that I want you guys to think over it. We've been living in an era of technology, knowledge, every single experience, every single thought, every single idea is not our idea but synthesized or processed from another idea or another thought. The more refined word would be to say that I am influenced by someone, I'm influenced by this idea, I'm influenced by their life, I'm influenced by their words. Everything that we think about and everything that we do is not original at all because the important concept that you need to think about is whether there is something called originality. What you call as original or a real idea born out of human mind is in some way related to some other idea that was previously there before that, whether it is technology, automobiles, human thought, society, the conditioning of the mind as we age. Everything is based on a previous thought, a previous experience that we have borrowed. For a minute, think you don't have any ideas, any knowledge that has not been put into your head by somebody, by some culture, by some value? Is there something that exists like that if the knowledge is not there? For example, life. When do we say that someone is living? When somebody is eating, walking, talking, and doing things that a doctor has defined as life. When do you call somebody dead? When that person is not exhibiting any symptoms of life, they are not eating, walking, talking, their heart is stopped, their pulse is stopped, then you call somebody as dead. When do you call somebody as highly educated and highly knowledgeable? Because there are already pre established education systems, syllabus, knowledge that one needs to acquire. And when one acquires that knowledge, you say that this person is intelligent because already there is a bar set. If there is no bar set, the bars are set by us, humans, right? It's not set by anybody else. So every idea, every definition, and every knowledge, what we have today is put into our head by somebody else. There are no original ideas, there are no original values, there is nothing original. Unless and until you had an awakening experience or you had some kind of a life transformation where altogether you had some new kind of knowledge that was implanted into your brain by somebody, not through human effort, not through reading, through, not by speaking to somebody else, which we have learned in history has happened thousands and thousands of years back, which we can call as divine knowledge, spiritual knowledge, or how the society has evolved over a period of time. All the other ideas of success, failure, character, values, morals is something that the society has defined. So, what we say as correct is wrong in some other country. What they call as wrong is right in some other country. So, what is absolute truth? There is nothing called absolute truth. Everything is a relative truth. Everything is partial knowledge. Everybody has half-baked knowledge. You get something from somebody 20%, you add 5% to it, or you reduce 10% to it. Over a period of time, you pass on that knowledge, what you feel is right, to somebody else. he takes that particular knowledge or value and then he adds or subtracts something from it, and it is passed on. So for thousands and thousands of years, what we have actually done is processing, refining, synthesizing the knowledge that we have acquired, because nothing has ever remained stable. Everything changes with time. Even the great mountains, even the volcanoes that was active thousands of years back are not active now. Things change. So our definition of success, failure, achievements is everything based on preconceived notions about something somebody had said at some point in time. Now, if you buy into this particular argument that everything everybody said at some point of time is correct, because that is established as truth, because if 100 people say that the color of the sky is green, then there is a tendency called herd tendency, right? You also tend to believe that it is green. So, do you have the courage to stand alone with no crutches and say that what I see, what the sky that I see is blue in color and it is not green? And then what happens is when your logic or when your interpretation is different from the rest of the world, they call yourselves as somebody who's a fool or somebody who's very daring and who's coming out and saying that this is what I feel is correct. You may be mocked by different people. People can make fun of you. But then I think the most important thing is the freedom of thought, freedom of speech, and freedom of action. So everything everybody had said about everything in this world, in this life, how we need to live, what are the morals we need to have, what are the values that we have, is something that should be thought about not once but many, many times, and see that whether it makes any sense to you, whether you can apply it to your life. And most important thing is basically, or maybe the one of the most critical success factors of all the great philosophers who lived in this world is to reject everything everybody had said about every field of human thought and have your own values. But then they don't take you seriously because you're challenging against a common notion or a value or an idea that's been there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, agreed by everybody, vetted by everybody, and something that has come to become true because of the passage of time. So, again, what I'm trying to say is I'm just trying to correlate this to our own personal experiences, because we need to live our life and we cannot live our life based on others' values, others' opinions. You can take it, listen to it, see if it makes sense to you, see if it can help you, right? They say that something that they call as timeless truths, tradition. Everything is relative at the end of the day. There is nothing called absolute truth. How do you say that something is absolute? There is no particular instrument or there is no particular way to say that this is true and this is false. So how do you ever know that you are in a falsified state or how you are whether you are in a true state? It is a state of belief. Either you completely swallow it without any questioning, right? You get brainwashed, take that belief, live your life without questioning what are the pros and cons that come out of that. You are ready to face it. Either you swallow it completely or you walk out of the room rejecting everything and saying that I'm going to live my life based on my own terms. Now, I'm not saying that you need to probably live like an animal with no values, no morals, nothing, not like that. Uh, the thing is, you question things, right? From a cultural perspective, from a moral perspective. So these are, at the end of the day, an opinion or judgment about something is based on what they have experienced, right? And the lens that they have used to interpret something may not be agreeable with your reasoning and logic. And there is nothing called happiness or sadness as well. These are definitions because Unconsciously, our brain is continuously comparing ourselves with preconceived, preset notions, standards, as if you do this, you are successful in life. If you do this, you are a failure in life. So, who sets that standard? Somebody sets that standard and somebody follows that, and you try to fit in. You try to fit into that standard, or you try to fit into that particular definition. So we are living in a world of definitions, right? Success is a definition, failure is a definition. And then whatever we talk about, actually speaking, we need to be in a natural state, right? In a natural state, there are no thoughts about something. The brain is only interested in responding to a stimuli. Have you seen how the animals live? Absolutely. They don't have any values, they don't have any morals. Again, I'm saying that you should not be like that. But then I think at some point in time, we have picked up so much of what others have said, and we have become too conditioned. Too conditioned in the sense that we see whatever others do as completely wrong, and we feel that we are right. That's because of the conditioning of the brain. That's because you've been raised in a particular style and you're being taught that this is right and this is wrong. So that's what happens when you travel across the globe. You tend to feel that all your values and all your systems, all that preconceived values, notions that you thought as right is wrong in some other country, yet they are living a happy life, they are successful, they make money, they have peace of mind. So at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide how you want to take it, process it, to refine it, and see how that can be adjusted to your particular way of living. As I told you, in the natural state, there is nothing called whatever we are talking about. Of course, there is something called justice law, and then the justice law is also an extension of uh, what we are being taught as right and wrong from various spiritual leaders, right? Because even before the law had come, religions used to be actively involved in telling what is right and wrong. So the religion also, the laws that we have, I'm not talking about any particular country, I'm not talking about any particular religion, I'm just generally saying, is an extension of what the religions thought or perceived to be right. And that's why the laws are different across the world. Otherwise, we would have had the same law everywhere. In some countries, something is banned. In the other country, it's accepted. In some country, if you do this, it is a mistake. In other country, it is accepted. So from where does this come? Where does this start? What is the origination point? It is purely based on what we hold as right or wrong, which has been put into us by somebody. And that's what we called as the cultural conditioning, moral conditioning, social conditioning. So it's very difficult to come out of this conditioning because the same software keeps running inside you, and then it keeps filtering the messages and accepting others, accepting some and rejecting others. So this is happening continuously when you are awake or even when you sleep, because whatever has been put into you is completely working all the time, and you use that particular framework of thought or that particular framework of knowledge to understand, to interpret, to comprehend what the world is all about. So that's why there is a very beautiful saying that the more you travel, the more matured you are. And in some of the Western civilizations, I heard, I haven't seen anybody talking about it. I mean, I haven't had any personal experience, but I think in some countries they say that once you reach your adulthood, or when when you're in your teenage, travel a lot, see the world, right? It's kind of a Western thinking, but you know we cannot say that it originated from West and it is continuing to be there. I think we are all the same, taking away the names and labels what we have put onto ourselves. We have labeled ourselves as somebody, right? So all the time this naming happens, labeling and naming and categorizing somebody as someone. So if you take away all these things, and if you look at travel as something that is going to build your own personal experience about the world, your thought process about the world, and how broader you become in your thoughts compared to how narrow your thinking was. Even if you do that, right? So that is one way, which is reading books and traveling across the world. But the cultural conditioning, social conditioning, or what we call as values, is something that has been put into our head right from our childhood. It's very difficult to come out of it unless and until you put uh, a voluntary effort from your side to be free from that, right? So if you're conditioned, you're like something, an animal caught in a cage. You don't even know that outside the cage there is something called, green pastures or land where you can go and roam freely, because you are mentally confined to the walls that has been created, that has been superimposed by nature, education, what people have taught you, which you feel is right based on your experiences, or the socially accepted values and norms. So if you really want to have a peace of mind, happiness, then I think you should probably start thinking in a different dimension. I'm not advocating any particular value, religion, moral, social conditioning. I'm just generally talking about the condition of humanity, the condition of thought, right? Thought is basically fascist in nature. The thought that you have is basically, what is thought basically, right? You want to achieve something, and your brain or your mind is telling you this is the way to go. And how do you know that that is the way to go? Because of what people tell you, right? So that's why they emphasize a lot on gut feeling. What does your gut say, and go with that. So it's a very, very complex topic, but definitely I think it's time to think about it, because based on all the wars that is happening across the world, and people predicting that there would be a World War III, because there is always a clash of culture, values, and morals with everybody, even somebody living in a particular country where you have different states. And if you just uh, travel 100 kilometers from your state, you can see that the food is different, the values are different, the morals are different, social conditioning is different, and you have a clash with that. And the moment you have a clash, it is actually not clash between two particular human beings, but it is a clash between two morals, two values, right? That you perceive, or you tend to believe, is true, and the other person doesn't agree with it. So that's where the concept of absolute truth comes. Is there something called absolute truth? Philosophers like J. Krishnamurti said that truth is a pathless land. And please Google about J. Krishnamurti, who was called as a world teacher. He lived his life in India, and then he moved to London, and then he started traveling across the world to talk about this the state of human mind philosophy, right? So it's called J. Krishnamurti's teaching. Is that it's time to introspect these things, and to really think whether this makes any meaning, because there's so much going around. There is so much going around, and everything is based on clash of values, clash of morals, clash between two people who think that they are right. And the catastrophic damages that it is causing is at a very, very high level, it's humongous. It's time to really think. So the one thing that I advocate you to do is just close your eyes, observe your breathing, and see what is happening in your mind. And the particular problem that you have today is basically created by you or created by something else. If you think you are failed in life, right? Just examine what are the standards of achievement. And you should not agree with that. Just because this is the standard and this is the definition of success, it doesn't mean that you have to agree with it. After 50 years, this might not be the definition of success. Things will change. And why do you need to go through so much of stress and suffering right now? Because everything is constantly changing. There is nothing that is temporary, permanent in this world. Everything is temporary. Whatever you say is real is going to become unreal after 10 years from now. Whatever people thought was real 20 years back, everything is changing continuously. The world is spinning, guys. It's not stopping. The world is continuously spinning. Things are changing. Weather is changing. Climate is changing. Thought process is changing. Values are changing. And the world is going towards universal values, universal business ethics. So, and the most of the problems, right, once you open the newspaper or once you start watching the news, is basically everything is based on thoughts, your thought process and what you believe is correct. So it's without condemning it, without appreciating it, without passing any judgments, just sit and observe that thought. What kind of emotions does that thought create in your mind? What kind of feelings that thought is creating in your mind? And from what is the origination point of that thought? Who says that this is the right path? Who says that this is the wrong? What are the figures and facts to support that? As I told you earlier, you need to believe in something blindly because there is no instrument, there is no scientific instrument to prove that a particular belief is correct. It is basically a belief, right? You believe that this is correct. You believe that this is not there. Even in our law, or even in our own life, when we were kids, we believed in several, we feared several things. We believed in different things, which at a later point in time we regretted. We still wonder, we sometimes laugh at ourselves why I believed in something, right? It can be related to the graduation or post graduation courses that you opted at one point in time because that was trending at that point in time. Somebody told you that if you take this particular graduation course or post graduation course, your future can be bright. You studied for 3 4 years and finally you come to know that that particular technology or that particular field of education has become obsolete and people have moved to something else. So what is true at some point in time, everything is based on time. As time changes, our beliefs changes, our values changes, right? And the so-called universal truth, what they say, is also a subjective experience of somebody with no objective reality around it. It is somebody's belief that something is there, and he is convincing others to believe that my belief is correct, and you take that belief and run, right? It can be anything. It can be a product. It can be any particular commodity that you buy. It can be belief about something that jogging is good for your body, walking is good for your body. And then at some point in time, another scientist publishes a paper saying that that particular theory, which was invented at some point in time, is wrong. And the new studies prove that this is correct. So somebody says that tea is good for your body. Somebody says that tea is not good. Coffee is good for your body. Somebody says that walking is good. Somebody says jogging is good. Somebody says weight training is good. Somebody says yoga is good. We cannot be living a life with so many contradictions, right? We cannot. So, what is that you have experienced from that particular idea? Be explorative, be adventurous, try that out and see if it works for you. If it works for you, take it. If it doesn't work for you, just be quiet. And whatever others want to talk about or practice, let them do it. Right? We are all, there is no body on earth that is like your body or my body. We are totally different. Nature has created unique individuals in this world. No two people can be compared. They don't have the same values, same behavior, same temperaments, right? Even like 5 children born to a mother have different value systems. They fight with each other. Either they agree with each other or they fight with each other. They have different values, right? Somebody says, I like red color. Somebody says, I like blue color. So everything boils down to personal choice. There is nothing called universal standard unless and until you do a study about it and then you have facts and figures about it. But that can also be uh, true or false at some point in time. As I told you, right? The studies that has been conducted in the last 1 year about something proves that this is correct. The studies that you get next year, the research findings can be totally different. So are you saying that what I believed last year based on the scientific facts and evidences I'm not trying to ridicule science here. I like science and I like everything what people believe in. But then at the end of the day, I think we are being influenced by many things, especially after the advent of social media, right? I think we are spoiled with choice and we don't know in which direction we want to go. Trends keep changing, thought process keeps changing. It keeps changing at a very fast pace that we are not even able to pace with it, keep a pace with it, right? We are not even able to run with it or adopt it, implement it for 3 4 months, because before that something else changes. So there is no particular value standard anywhere across the world. Things are fast changing, so fast. So it's time to introspect, think about these things and see what works for you. I hope my advice is useful to you, and I would share many more um, snippets of wisdom later in my videos. Thank you very much. Thank you for subscribing Beyond Knowledge channel. See you in another video. Bye.